Hi there, welcome back to Joshua chapter 6, thinking about the integrity of the spies who made sure that Rahab and her family survived the Israelite sack of the city. In verses 24 to 26, it says this: "And the Israelites burned the town and everything in it." This is the town of Jericho. "Only the things made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron were kept for the treasury of the Lord's house." And here now is a reference back to those previous verses 22-23 about Rahab and her family. "Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her relatives who were with her in the house, because she had hidden the spies Joshua sent to Jericho. And she lives among the Israelites to this day." So there was this, remember this was written as this indication, and proof of this is that she's still alive. Verse 26 is the crux here. "At that time Joshua invoked this curse: 'May the curse of the Lord fall on anyone who tries to rebuild the town of Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son he will lay its foundation. At the cost of his youngest son he will set up its gates.'" Now there was a legacy about the town of Jericho and the fact that Jericho had resisted what God wanted, and Jericho had led a life so contrary to God that the legacy that remained after was incredibly negative. And we think about legacy very often as we want to leave a legacy. We want to leave money or possessions or property, or we want to live a life that points other people to God. That's our legacy. It's a positive legacy. It's something that is left after our time on earth is gone that points people in a positive direction. It's also possible to leave a negative legacy. And this is the great warning here, that when people live their lives away from God, they live their lives apart from God's call. They live their lives really to suit themselves, just to see what they can ascertain with their own eyes. And what seems to be so important, that is that what their focus is really on. They miss the call of God on their lives, and then the legacy that they leave is not as positive it could be, and it could in fact be downright negative. And there's a lot of talk now about leaving a legacy and the good legacy that we can leave, and we want to be leaving a good legacy that honors God. And we don't want to not leave a bad legacy out of fear, but to be aware that everything we do has implications. Everything that we decide can impact those around us now, but also in the future. And it's a solemn warning, really, of what it is to turn our backs on God and to say to God, "Well, I'm going to go my way." I've often said over the years, quoted that Frank Sinatra song, "I'll do it my way," which of course is a dreadful thing to be doing, because we want to be living our lives God's way, not our way. And if our way and God's way coincide, that's great. But if there's a disparity, we need to go with what God is saying. So I want to encourage you, think about the legacy that you are leaving. Not only the things that you will physically be able to pass on to people, but also the difference you are making in the spiritual realm. Now, Paul says in the New Testament that we're not fighting against people, but we're fighting against demonic systems that set themselves up in the place of God. And our legacy needs to be that of people who have said no to the claims of the enemy and yes to the claims of Jesus. And that way, those who come after us and those who live amongst us even now will be able to say, "Well, that person pointed me to Jesus. That person gave me hope when there was no hope left. That person gave me a sense of that I can understand the calling of God on my life, that I can appreciate and take on board all that God has for me now and in the future." That's a legacy that you can be encouraged about. And opposite to what God did with the people of Jericho, your legacy can bring life and not death. And surely that's what we want to be doing as Jesus followers.